And the courts and the judge should know that I'll never let go, cause they made us indestructible as they made big dollars and let me know I'm just another financial figurine, an income profit manifesting machine. The only value they said I have is green. They called me a
Okay, equal protection under the law. Let's talk about that concept. I'll associate this with tender years doctrine, right? Equal protection under the law is what it is. That all people have equal protection under the law, right? Whether you're a man or a woman, child, adult, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, atheist, equal protection under the law all around the boards. Now let's take family court and me as a man, okay? When my daughter was born at 1 month in age, when she was 1 month old, I'd never seen her, never been allowed to see her by the mother. So at 1 month of age, she went into the Oregon courts in Clackamas County, and Clackamas County did an ex parte hearing, which means they don't invite you, they don't invite the other people. It can be an emergency hearing, whatever it is, only one side typically presents. So mother went in and presented and said, I have the child, went to get what's called a status quo order. Status quo means we keep what is and what has been the same as far as routine and scheduling and what the baby knows. So for me, that was that I hadn't been involved in my daughter's life because mother had not let me have any access or time. And so status quo order was put into place at 1 month of age, and it meant that I couldn't get an hour's time. I couldn't get 5 minutes. I couldn't get 3 minutes of time. I couldn't get any time because the status quo was that I was not around. So let's talk about equal protection under the law. Now, at 1 month of age, my daughter had 100% time with mother, guaranteed and protected by the law, protected by force and violence, meaning if I went to try to access and exercise, enjoy any time with my daughter, I'd be in violation of this court order. Meaning mother had full protection to enjoy our child, while father was restricted by force and duress of threat. Right? So I could go to jail, be arrested, be fined financially. I've been fined already in this process just for the way I fought for my rights. But the bottom line is equal protection under the law. How did it apply to both genders? How did it apply to father? I had zero time. I spent roughly $25,000 to eventually come to a stipulated judgment, which means both parents agreed to a parenting plan to parent out of Colorado, where I live, where mother had lived until she fled, 4 weeks before delivering, into Oregon and got jurisdiction in Oregon. Never lived there, never had a job there, didn't have a Oregon license, nothing. And they took jurisdiction simply because the baby was born there. So on that, I'll say, look into the UCCJEA. We read this whole thing, cover to cover. It was written for my case, okay? And I think it's point 3, home state, that's what they ruled on. That because the child was born physically in another state, that state had jurisdiction, was the home state. And so Oregon took jurisdiction of my child that had never lived there, right? Had no relations there, nothing, and has had jurisdiction ever since. So I spent $20,000, roughly $20,000 to $25,000, coming up with a court-ordered agreement that we would parent out of Colorado, and I would have 50-50 time by the age of 3, which I still think has nothing to do with equal protection under the law, right? I had to pay, I had to fight, I had to go to court to get any time. And ultimately, we stayed out of court, we settled outside of court, but the bottom line is I had to fight and fight and fight just for any time, for 1 hour. All right, there was no equal protection. So after I spent 20 to 25 to get my so-called equal rights to my child, 50-50 by age 3, mother decided that she didn't want to abide by that. She went back to Oregon, and they made up the claim of domestic violence, and Oregon gave him another emergency custody, gave her full 100% custody. I could only have visitation through supervised visitation with a psychologist, right? No evidence, nothing. They just defaulted on protecting mother. We had 2 hearings, and I had an 8-month domestic violence investigation by the police. None of those came to substantiate anything because they were all false. You got to understand, I'm a brown, melanated man, okay? This was a young, white female. For me to have gone through all these investigations, and I'm sorry, we know the stereotypes. We know how easy it is to convict and charge a brown man on anything, much less with a white woman, much less a white woman now claiming domestic violence. And the claims against me were serious as they get. Okay, we're talking threats of murder and rape and child abuse and beating women and she pulled out everything, okay? And so that's not going to go into the history of black and white relations, interracial dating, the so-called white woman's history of claiming rape and abuse and, duress over the scary black man, okay? So what it took for me to fight for my innocence and prove that and have no record, no convictions, to have gotten through that, and I can't say with a clear anything because it's like the same thing. Throw whatever and see what sticks. That's how they do it. And so once you have an accusation of beating women, beating children, rape, right, attempted murder, things like that, it's like pedophiles and molesters and these people that once you put the stigma on somebody, how hard and what it does to your whole life, right? This rape culture and what they're doing to even college kids, and some of these kids get off, no doubt about it. And the stigma they have, the damage and repair that they have to go through is incredible. And that has nothing to do with supporting violence against women. That's why for me it's so appalling, because my life is about the love revolution and creating social change. And so to have such nasty, such opposite of what my character is, these accusations put against me was just devastating. I had to do a lot of soul searching and healing and forgiving and finding peace with myself and with Creator and my daughter's mother. And so it's a continual process of self-growth, self-realization, understanding yourself and understanding others, to come back to center, to hold your ground and hold peace with this whole process. So equal protection under the law, right? We made a lot of these so-called equal protection laws, equality laws. I mean, you look at the feminist movement in general, today, the third wave, which I'm very opposed to, and, the so-called similarities they're trying to compare to the civil rights movement. The point is all of these movements, the gay, LGBT community, and these movements to be treated equal, right? And so I'm just looking at my case. Family courts, a melanated male, a father who went into Oregon courts and had 0% given to me and 100% given to mother. Okay? And so after paying, be honest, I'm a low-income household. So we don't got much loot right now. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to act like I'm in poverty thinking. I do all my visualizations and manifestations and, exercises and studying to improve wealth and prosperity and all of that. But I can also take accountability for where I am, which is a factor in what I can and cannot do. The Oregon courts expect me to travel to a state I've never lived in just to have parenting time, instead of letting my daughter come here, as though that's equal, as though I should chase, or any parent should chase another parent around the country if they want to move and separate the parents from their children's lives, which I think is selfish. I think if you're going to move with a child, you better have a good reason. My first daughter, Iana, when we had her, we made an agreement we'd never move away from each other, because we don't know how families can run when there's not two parents involved. And I did all that same planning with my second child, but the planning doesn't mean anything. It's how you can back it up. It's the protection of the law, or society that you have behind you. And that gets into violence or no violence, because are you going to then exercise that power through force, or are you going to do it through civilized means? And how can that be if somebody refuses to cooperate? Absolutely, right? So that's why we have this judicial system and the legal system. And that legal system is backed by force, right? That's their end game. If you do not comply, you will be shackled. You will be put in jail for contempt, right? Which is, let's just expand on that real quick. There's no debtor's prison here, right? So you can't go to jail for a debt. But you can go to jail for owing child support, which is a debt, right? And yet we have semantics, so they're going to call it contempt of court. Whatever it is, you're going to be put in jail. You're going to be fined and punished. That's how this system teaches us we deal with people. And that's my lesson from all this. If we raise families like these courts treat the so-called citizens of the country, we'd be a damaged, hurt, vindictive, resentful, bitter, separated nation. And look, we sort of are. And that's sort of how families are becoming with this divorce rate and our rate of failure and creating healthy, harmonious, I don't care what the unit is. I think it's silly to get married in the state, bring the state into your business, get licensed from the state for love. That's goofy to me, but I get it. Most people are going to do it. And so then we're going to be in this commercial realm with law and commerce, and you want to get divorced. You're going to have to go through all your assets, put everything on the table, let them go through all your private business, right? Waive your rights to privacy and search and seizure, them needing a warrant to go through your stuff. You're asking them to babysit you on everything we do that involves this government right now, whether that's the Social Security, the driver's license, all these contracts that we're doing that say, yes, I love this. That seems like a good deal. Yeah, I'd love to contract to be a driver instead of a traveler, right? I'd love to contract to be a financial communion about taxing and insurance and all this other stuff that involves the government instead of just a commitment between you, your beloved, before the Most High and your family and the community that you live in, right? So, equal protection, we got to create that. And I don't even think it exists, honestly, because we weren't created equal. And that's why there needs to be bargaining and understanding and agreement and a goal to be moral and civilized and good and not just dominators. Because in natural law, a bear can dominate anything. A lion can dominate if it wants. It's not about equality. But natural law has a beauty about the balance that was created within it. And that's why this is a holistic conversation about spirituality, about the nature of life, of humanity. Are you a human? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you a person? Are you a corp? Are you an ens legis? Are you a fictional entity? Are you flesh and garb? Are you a soul? Right? They made me sound like a crazy terrorist for talking about that. And they brought up the Freeman movement, Posse Comitatus, right? All the European stuff, or the stuff that now is classified as the sovereign movement and the terrorists, right? But this has been going on forever. Go talk to any First Nation community. Go talk to the Sioux. Go talk to the Diné. Go talk to the Iroquois. Go talk to the Cheyenne. Go talk to all the First Nation, indigenous, sovereign people, sovereign nations, right? This has been going on since the beginning of European migration to the so-called Americas. This isn't about a white patriot movement, although I agree with what they're saying because they're the same concepts recirculating, coming back. They realized they weren't part of the shtick. White Europeans weren't part of the hustle, right? They were just a necessary component for the rich to get richer, and when they were done needing what they needed from them, now you see what you got today. The eradication of the middle class, the eradication of white Americans being brought down to the level of everybody else as they degrade the dollar, inflation goes up, scarcity, dollars crashing, or transforming. That's how I feel. The system's transforming. I'm not a fearmonger. I don't believe this is the end times. There's tons of ends of cycles, and they reflect the beginning of new cycles. Forever. That's how I feel. And so, it's our job to be a positive manifester within those cycles, to look at what is, identify what we don't want, and transform that to clarity on what it is we do want, and then work for that. And that's what I'm doing. That's why I bring awareness to equal protection under the law or in society in general. Because although I don't think by nature we're created equal, I still think the concepts and the intentions that went behind equality and equality in front of the law are good concepts, because we get where they come from. They come from compassion more than equality, for caring about people, right? If you see a woman that's being done dirty, we oppose that. Not because she's created the same as a man, or the same as even another woman, or another culture's woman, or anything else. The diversity in this world is infinite, and that's beautiful and should be acknowledged. And through compassion, if our focus is on compassion, right? Compassion and love, the love revolution being the most important doctrine to what we guide for all of our actions, then that's where law comes from. That's what I told the court. Isn't law supposed to come from compassion? Isn't that where the supposed moral regulations stem from in the first place? So why is that gone when the po-po pull us over? Why is that gone when we go into family court and not a single person smiles? I get it's not like necessarily a happy time, but you don't feel an ounce of compassion when you go in these family courts, much less criminal courts, much less when you're talking with the road pirates and the cops. You know, I'll say there's a 1%. I'll deal with 1%. And I live in Colorado where there's some chill police, and it's still very small, very small. And so equal protection is not about equal protection, but it is about not being a hypocrite, right? So all the women that I haven't heard stand up for what I've gone through as a man in these family courts and what the third wave feminism has done, as though everybody's part of this wicked patriarch, which is goofy. Okay? In America, I'm sorry, it's goofy. Like, the white women here, the third wave feminists here, compared to brown folk in general, the so-called brown community, much less brown men, these ones that you are including in this wicked patriarch, is a disservice to how we got to where we at. It's a disservice to what all the brown communities have been fighting for, trying to acknowledge so-called white supremacy and white domination and a difference in culture to begin with. Okay, the reason all the black and brown men are gone from the families isn't because of a wicked black patriarch that's out to get all the black men out of the households and in prisons and disappeared wherever they're gone. Okay? And when you get into these family courts like I've been in, when they're given all of the rights and all the protection and all the so-called equality to the mother, it's a travesty. Because all you have to do is put yourself in somebody else's shoes. So as a woman, I don't care what your gender is. As whatever gender you are, would you ever say that it's okay, whatever the other gender is, they get, right now I have 2%. 2% to mother's 98% time. I got 4 weekends a year in my home state. Mother has the rest 357 days. Right? 2% to 98%. Would any woman ever stand for that? Having their baby taken at 1 month old. My baby was taken before she was even born. Okay, I had no access. It's not my body. I have no rights. And most women I talk to haven't even thought about it. Haven't even thought about it. Much less started to become involved in the conversation to put their true position on it. And much less problem solving. So that's my goal, to transform these family courts. What's happening to men in many of these courts. I know women are done wrong, of course. These courts are flawed. But what's happening to the men, I personally want to see changed. What happened to me, I don't want to see happen to anybody. It's for these babies. Like, they think I'm in there just fighting for me, like I'm selfish because I want more than 2% time. Well, they never even argue about my daughter, that my daughter needs time with a father, that children need fathers, okay? Fathers are important. I'm important. Mothers are important. My daughter's mom is important. The dynamic of fathers and mothers is important together, okay? And I take responsibility. It's on me first and foremost for failing to have a communion with a woman that put us in family courts that we could even get there with each other. I don't take responsibility for the wicked lies and the extremes that she's gone, because it's unacceptable. And just as we can't stand for crimes from men, I don't care what your gender, we can't stand crimes by women either. You can't make up lies about rape. You can't make up lies about abuse. These things that the state's gonna go protect you far more than the man as a tool of wickedness, as a tool of violence. And then what are the women supposed to do? I'm curious for the community of women I know. What do we do with the women that are willing to do that? I don't think accusing a man of rape that hasn't done it is as bad as a man who rapes a woman. But I think it's wicked. I don't think we need to compare them. I think we still need to have a conversation, regardless of where this crime happened, to look at another crime and say, there has to be ramifications, okay? There has to be protection for men. And it can't just be this wicked patriarch that's all powerful and dominates every woman, because it's just not the case. We got to bring it back to reality and look at it where it is discriminatory for women and where it's discriminatory for men. But to think that men can't be discriminated against, it's so offensive to what I've gone through. And I hope to bring awareness and create some sort of equality through compassion, not through trying to make us the same people. Not by trying to make Europeans brown, melanated people white, trying to homogenize everything, but by acknowledging diversity and valuing it. I want to feel valued as a man and as a father. I certainly want the women to be valued as a mother and as a woman. So, we got a lot to discuss. Equal protection under the law? Not in Oregon. That's how I feel. Not for millions and millions of men. Not in family court. Let's raise a conversation about it. Let's do it kindly. Let's not do it to berate those who we think we oppose, those who think are oppressing us, those who we think are less intelligent and less in the know than our also wise selves, right? Let's humble ourselves. Practice nonviolent communication, okay? 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more than we speak. Let's reflect what people are saying to us so we show them that we hear what they're saying. So they say, yes, that's what I'm saying. Active listening. Say, is this what you're hearing? Okay? Let's try to be better communicators. Let's try to be better humans. Let's try to be better fathers, men. Let's try to be better mothers, women. If you don't got children, let's just try to be better people. It's a love revolution. My name is MCAD. Give thanks for any of your time. Peace and love. 1.
It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here. Who's that? It's love. Can you feel it coming through that conscious revolutionary music? Yeah, you can feel it in your veins.
Hey, give thanks for those who donated and ask for ways to donate and support and help the cause. I set up a PayPal account for donations, so if you want to donate, you can do so at lovefurpapa@gmail.com. That's our PayPal account, and that's love, the number 4, POPPA @gmail.com. If you got $1 to spare, every dollar helps. We just want to say thank you to those who have supported in every way that they have. Peace and love.